Well, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this Jubi team webinar. This webinar, give me a moment here. Give me a moment. Let's make sure that we don't forget about recording. This webinar will be audio recorded, as well as we do plan on video recording. Wait a minute, bear with me. Bear with me. Something's happening that shouldn't be happening. Bear with me. Where's that coming from? Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Something is not acting right. Hold on. All right. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm having a problem with my video recording. We are audio recording this.
Tilamat,
yes.
It was acting up, so give me a moment, and it will be okay.
Okay. Oh, darn. How in the world that happened? All right, bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. Bear with us. All right, open up your questions box. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from. While we're waiting on some of our tech stuff, we'll do some brief introductions, and then we will get things started here. I want to welcome those of you that have come on the webinar. You've already begun to log in. Marcia, good to see you. And Kenny, good to have you. From Maryland, Anthony B. From Seattle, Marcia, good to have you. What in the world is going on? Why am I having all these issues? Bear with me. Changing application displays. I don't want that. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. My gosh, this is what in the world is going on? Okay, that's. Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to bear with me. Something is not acting right, and I don't know. I'm getting some feedback on my side that's not allowing me to do the recording I want to do, and bear with us. We'll be with you in a few moments. Found it. Okay. All right. Please forgive me. What a blunder. Okay, so now we should be able to get started here. All right, so let's go back to some introductions, and then we'll get things started. I do apologize for that. Tyron from Trinidad, good to have you. Tyron is building one heck of a business. He's got, not only is he one of the top personal enrollers in the company, but what's really impressive is to see the duplication is going throughout his team. Multiple. Did I say multiple? I meant to say multiple. Did I say multiple? I meant to say many multiples of thousands on his team. Welcome, Tyron. Minnie from New York, good to have you. Randy from Indiana, fantastic to have you. And yes, Randy, this is being recorded. We finally got it figured out. We understand what was going on now, at least from the video side. Neil from Ontario, good to have you, my friend. Clarence from Fairfield, good to have you. Brad from Chicago. Elaine and Andy, you continue to get the Perfect Attendance Award. Mary from Kansas, Buddy from Louisiana, Alice from Florida. Thank you, I appreciate that. Foy from Florida, Lana, or is it Lana? Forgive me for mispronouncing one of those. From Ontario, Jesse from Wisconsin. Hey, Jesse, got a chance to meet one of your personally enrolled at in Phoenix. And as well as I would have thought, because I think so highly of you, so do they. So welcome, Jesse, from Wisconsin. Zeke and Jerry Stewart. Zeke, it was great seeing you. It was kind of funny seeing you without your lovely wife, Jerry, because you guys are a package deal. So Zeke and Jerry, good to have you on the webinar. George from Missouri, the Show Me State. Dale from Illinois. Susie Q from Minnesota. Deborah from South Carolina. RK from Virginia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My gosh, you folks are piling onto the call. I'm going to give it another minute or two to take some introductions. Michael from Alabama, James from Florida, Suzanne.
The home business
Susanna
owner,
from.
there's probably two things.
What's that? Okay. All right. Somebody on my side. Let's make sure you made it out. I don't know what that was. Susanna from France. What time of day is it over there in France, Susanna? Randy. Susanna is another one, ladies and gentlemen. Big on the personal enrollment board, building a huge, 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 huge team. Randy from Nashville, good to have you. Sharon from Baltimore. Daryl from Wisconsin. Daryl from Greensboro, North Carolina. Now, this guy here, Daryl from Greensboro, I've known this guy for years. You want to talk about one of the biggest builders that you'll run across, that's Daryl from Greensboro. Shelly from Virginia. Isaac, I didn't think you were going to be able to make it. I thought you had a jazz thing going on tonight. So it's good to see you, Isaac. Isaac, for someone who claims to be a Joe Average, you sure are building a heck of a team. Lyle from Canada. Boomy from Maryland, who normally does introductions. I'm sorry, Boomy, I didn't get you on this side. I apologize. I'm having an Empower Me Now moment withdrawal. I need one of your Empower Me Now moments. Patricia from Washington State. John from Virginia. Sean. Now, another person. Sean, over 500 personally enrolled. Sean, that has not gone unnoticed, man. I am so proud of you. Congratulations. Elena. Shelly, Lyle, Giovanni from Long Island, Venetia, can't get to Nim. Good to see you, man. It was great meeting you for the first time. It was great always seeing you on the webinars, but then to be able to put a face and a personality with the person that we were seeing on the webinars. It was great seeing you and seeing Luna on last week. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I won't be able to get to everyone. I'll try to acknowledge as many of you as we possibly can. All right, let's go on and go to work. Got a lot that we want to cover. Now, ladies and gentlemen, obviously you know that I'm one of the voices that you hear right now. There's going to be a lot more voices. Well, one of the voices that you hear right now on the corporate webinars, and there are certain things that I can say on corporate webinars, and there are certain things I can't say on corporate webinars, or I can't say them in the fashion that I would like to say them. And the reason being is that when I'm on a corporate webinar, you know, I've got to put on my little corporate face, all right? But when I do a webinar for our team, I'm going to be just me, all right? Now, I'm still me on the corporate webinar, but I have to dial it down a bit. When I come on our webinars, if you don't like our webinars, I'm going to love you just the same, but I got to be me, ladies and gentlemen. I've got to be me. Okay. Now, what I want to do from time to time is have webinars specifically for those that are following us. That way we can make sure that maybe some things that have been shared from a corporate standpoint you really understand. Sometimes, for instance, we may have webinars where we've got you know, more of a question and answer so that we can get to more questions, because typically when we do our corporate webinars, whether they're introduction webinars or whether they are corporate update training webinars, there'll be so many questions. We'll get through, you know, as many as we can in about a 15-30-minute period, but we always wind up leaving with still more questions than what we were able to provide answers for. And again, then there'll be some things that we can share that we can't necessarily share on a corporate webinar. So let's make a couple of notes, and then we've got a couple of polls that I need you to vote in, and I'll show these polls in just a few moments. The first note that I want to make sure that you and your team are registered for our email list. Now, let me tell you about our email list, okay? Because some of you are newer to us. The way we build from a macro level, all right? We build from a macro level, all right? So I build with the team in mind, which is why we do so many webinars, not only corporately, but why we'll do webinars like this, okay? I don't pay attention necessarily to is John or Mary or Susan personally enrolled, because I offer the same business building support to someone who's 20 levels removed from me to someone who's not even in my organization. All right, so with that being said, the way that you make sure that your teammates are getting information from us, and we never, ever, 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 ever send out personal referral links to this email list. We never, ever, ever send out personal referral links to this email list. So you can feel confident that if you have your teammates registering to be a part of our list, they're simply getting information as to what we send out to update you on corporate webinars or webinars that we're doing. For instance, those who are part of our email list, this morning, the first post that we sent out, there was the audio link from last night's corporate webinar. Now, the company will post that, but it may take the company an extra day or two because it's got to go through programming. They've got to render it up and put it in the back office, so on and so forth. I can go and grab that link, send it out in the email. All right, now, the quickest way to get someone to our email listing right now, and I know my internet marketers, you're going to get me, Tyron's going to get me. If you send an email to JubiRevTeam@aweber.com. So as you bring folks on, particularly if you are not yet in the position where you're doing conference calls or webinars or meeting with your teams on a larger basis as your teams grow, that's how I build from a macro standpoint. So you can feel confident in having any of your folks go to JubiRevTeam@aweber.com, knowing that we're never going to send out any personal referral links. Just talk about things that are germane to helping people build their Jubi business. Okay. Now, I've got a couple of, got several polls I want you to assist me with. And so I want you to get in front of your system. And please vote with all of these polls. The first poll is going to come up right now. All right. The poll, basically, I want to get a sense with this the folks that are on tonight's webinar, how long you've been following Jubi. Now, some of you have been following us since before we even started a pre-registration, before there was a web page. We were calling it Plan B. If that's you, mark there. If you have been following us maybe just for the last couple of weeks, mark there. Oh, good amount of you, just the last couple of weeks. Less than 2 weeks, mark there, and then less than a week. I want to get everyone voting, please. I want to get everyone voting. I'm making some notes here on this side. I'm going to give you 10 seconds here in 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Give me a moment. Let me make a note. Okay, good. So it looks like we've actually had a good number of you that have just joined Jubi or just started really following Jubi in the last 2 weeks to maybe the last week or what have you. And then obviously there's a good amount of you that have been here from since the pre-registration started. We'll explain to you the pre-registration very briefly, the pre-launch, where we are now, and then what we're all waiting for is the daily revenue sharing. So we'll talk a little bit about that. All right, next poll. Okay, I have already added funds or loaded funds in my back office. If you have not, then you're just going to say, no, I haven't. If you have, then give me the methods that you've used. And if you've used multiple methods, then maybe the method where you loaded the most. So you either use Pazer or STP as an example. You have an ACH that's in process. So maybe it's loaded now or maybe it's in process. You've got a wire. Maybe it's loaded now or maybe it's in process. Or you're utilizing the Jubi account for your loading. Give me just a moment. Everyone again, please vote. Okay. Okay, bear with me. 42. So a lot of you are loading with STP and Pazer. Okay. Got some with ACHs. ACHs are only available in the U.S. I will tell you, I'm not a fan of the fee associated with ACH. That is not a Jubi fee. That is something that's a third party. But I'm not going to trip over pennies getting to dollars either. Okay? I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm not going to trip over pennies, nor do I want you to trip over pennies getting to the real money. And then Jubi. Okay. Okay, all right. I want to challenge those of you that said you've not yet loaded to start the process. We'll talk about that. Okay, let's close that one. But this one's going to ask about the monthly subscription you plan to get started with. Okay? Now, whether you've loaded funds now or not, but you plan on loading, I'm going to make the assumption that you do plan on loading, or maybe if you just joined in the past day or two, you're here to kind of get more insight as to why you want to load. And what I want to just get a sense of is what you're going to be getting started with out of the gate. We'll talk about why you want to consider one subscription above another, so on and so forth. And once again, I thank you. Wow, a good amount of you. All right, really good amount of you. All right, so $15 a month gives you the Jade distinction. We'll make sure you understand that. And your Jubi points would earn for 80 days. $50 a month gives you the Ruby. Emerald gives you the 95 days, and a Diamond gives you 105 days. We'll make sure you thoroughly understand that. Let me just make a note of these numbers real quickly. 12. You know, I'm really pleased with that because the actual majority of you are saying that you're looking to start with a Diamond rank. Good for you. I spelled Diamond wrong looks like. Didn't put a D there, I'm sorry. Ruby. Bear with me. Actually, about 3/4 of you are between Emerald and Diamond, which is the biggest bang for your buck. And then we've got others at the Jade and Ruby. We want to make sure you understand those. And as we always teach, you'll get started where you are. Never hurt your family. All right. A couple more polls. Just a couple more polls. Thank you for voting for me. All right. So now, out of the gate, how many Jubi bucks do you plan on purchasing? Your inventory. How many Jubi bucks you plan on purchasing? I'm purchasing less than 100. You click there. I'm purchasing somewhere between 100 and 500. You'll click there. I'm purchasing somewhere between 500 and 2,500. You'll click there. I'm purchasing somewhere between 2,500 and 5,000. You'll click there. I'm purchasing 5,000 or more. You'll click there. Okay? Give me a moment. Okay. By the way, we will never make anyone feel like a second-class citizen, and you should never let anyone make you feel like a second-class citizen. If you are at $15 a month versus 200, or if you purchase 10 Jubi bucks versus 10,000, all right? We will make sure if you come to our webinars that, and we'll do this on the corporate standpoint too. We'll make sure you never feel like you're a second-class citizen, because every person, whether they're Joe Average, Sue Average, or Joe Sue's the Superstar, is very, very important to what we're going to be building together. Give me a moment, just about finished. Okay. Well, wide cross-section here. Wide cross-section. I can tell you that with what some of you are talking about, they're purchasing out of the gate, the ranges you're talking about, that's going to generate some very hefty commissions for the field, for the team, and it's going to generate some great point matches. Fantastic. Okay. Almost finished? Okay. All right. This is a real simple one. I understand the Jubi Suite. I understand it. I've got it. I understand how important it is. Either yes, I do, or no, I don't. I understand the Jubi Suite. Oh, wow. Good. Good. Wow, I didn't expect that high of a number. Fantastic. About 3/4 of you say, I've got it. Okay. Jubi Suite. We'll make sure the 25 don't. We may not be able to cover all that on this webinar, but we'll at least share with you the resources so that you can get the Jubi Suite. Okay, we'll close that one out. And most of you are voting too, so thank you for being so responsive. All right, now this one is for those of you that want to build a team. And I encourage you to vote even if you don't think you're good at recruiting or sponsoring. It just means that maybe you haven't been good at it. When you really understand our compensation plan, you would want to build a team. Again, even if you're not good at it, you would want to build a team. And so this is going to ask you the ways of building that you would be most comfortable with given your current set of circumstances, skill sets, time horizon, so on and so forth. So if you say, okay, boy, I don't want to do anything offline, I just want to do something online, all right, you'd be the first one. If you say, boy, I can't get that online stuff, you know, I don't even know how to send an email, I just want to build offline, all right. And if you want to be a mixture, wow, this is really impressive. I'm glad to see right now about 67% of you say I want a mixture of both. Fantastic. And most of you have voted. Okay, how to build mixture of both. Okay, so about 2/3 of you said a mixture of both. Okay, all right. And we're just about finished. Thank you for your time. This is the last one. Now, for those of you that say, I'm interested in doing some type of building offline, it could be offline only, which that was a very small percentage. Most of you said, I want to build online and offline. For those of you that are considering or would be interested in building offline in addition to anything you may do online, I want you to vote here, okay? What we want to see is who, the percentage of folks that may be either interested in attending or facilitating, maybe a home party. Maybe you have some, you've got some folks you want to invite over. If you are interested in facilitating or attending a hotel or restaurant type meeting, maybe you're not ready to facilitate it, but man, if there was something in your area, you'd go to it. You would help support it. You'd go to it. You'd help support the home party. If you're interested in doing both, if there was something in your local area, whether you were facilitating it or someone else was, whether it was a home party or if it was offline, a restaurant, hotel, you'd go to it. If you say, man, I'm not doing anything offline, that would be neither. Okay? All right. Let me tell you what I'm getting is I'm getting about a third, about 29% saying, hey, I'm not doing anything offline. I respect that. I understand that. The rest of you are saying, I'm either interested in facilitating or attending either a home party or maybe a hotel or a restaurant gathering or what have you, if there was something in my local area. Okay, great. All right. What this allows us to do, what this is helping me to do is to find out from our following where we need to put some resources, maybe training resources. You know, if it was just online, I'm not the online guru, so we would go and we would tap some of our internet marketing buddies and buddiettes that know a lot more about internet marketing than I do. If it's offline, then we would bring some of our folks to do some training about maybe some things to do with an offline hotel, restaurant, or home business, home party type scenario. Okay, give me a moment. So basically 69% of you are interested if there was something in your local area. Okay, thank you. All right, so now we can go to work here. Thank you so much. Most of you voted, and I really appreciate that. Okay, so what we want to do, oh, I got to close that poll. What did I do? Where'd it go? Okay, wait a minute. I made, where's the poll? Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. I just made a little blunder on this side. Where's my poll? Bear with me. I'm on a webinar, babe. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Oh man, how do I close out my poll? Oh boy. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm having a problem. My little poll closeout got missing somewhere, and I'm trying to see. Dashboard. Okay, that should do it. Okay. All right. Okay. So now let's go to work. Let's go to work. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I want to make sure that you understand the periods that we are in, okay? The first period, we've already come through, pre-registration. Many of you were a part of pre-registration. I think about 3/4 of you said, hey, I was a part of pre-registration maybe right at the onset before pre-registration even started. And that was where people were enrolling. Pre-registration lasted for about 3.5, maybe 4 weeks or so. And during pre-registration, no one was loading funds. The whole idea of pre-registration was to start to do some training. People could come into the back office. They could see that this is a real company. They could start connecting with the president, so on and so forth, because we understand that there's a lot of opportunities out there. Many of them are not built on a solid foundation. And I'll tell you this, one of the things, I've shared this before, I am getting greatly concerned about the numbers of people that I'm seeing that are in more of the multi-level marketing, network marketing, affiliate marketing space that are heavily promoting high-yield investment programs. Now, I am never going to be the one to rain on your entrepreneurial parade. I'm never going to be the one that says, hey, you should only promote Jubi Rev, and how dare you go out and promote something else. Because I believe you should be an entrepreneur, and you should do what you believe best suits your family, what best drives revenue to your family, because you have to answer for your family. I don't have to answer for your family. I have to answer for mine. At the same time, I want to build a very large team of folks that are entrepreneurial in nature, that generate plenty of revenue so that you can help take care of your family. Now, one of the things I am seeing that's concerning me on in the internet space particularly are these high-yield investment programs. When I first came to the internet, prior to 2008, I built everything offline. I did the dog and pony shows, the hotel presentations. I ran up the highways. I flew on airplanes back and forth across the country in the U.S. doing presentations and training. I decided, my wife and I had another baby. My little girl is now 5. And I was missing my children growing up because I was always doing a presentation somewhere every single night. So now I live in the Central Florida area, in the Orlando area. So it would be like one night maybe I did something in Orlando. Not a big deal. I'd be back home pretty early. And then maybe another night I went an hour and a half up the street to Jacksonville. Well, by the time I had to deal with traffic, my children were just getting home and I had to hit the road, my 2 boys at the time. And then maybe I would do a deal, let's say, this wasn't what I was doing then because I was living in North Carolina, but maybe I would do a deal down in Fort Lauderdale, about 3.5 hours from me. All right, so by the time I need to get on the road to hit traffic, I'm missing my sons, I'm missing having dinner with my sons, so on and so forth. So I came onto the internet in 2008 with no great internet marketing skill set. I still don't. I just started doing webinars, and then I started learning a little bit about YouTube, and I found out that that was my lane, and that's where I have stayed. When I came online, I was introduced to these high-yield investment programs. You didn't have to recruit anybody. You didn't have to sponsor anybody. There was no product, no service, no nothing. You just put your money in the kitty, and you got 1%, 2% a day. Now, I've been in the investment arena for most of my adult life, so I knew that the chances that they were doing real investments that were generating 1% and 2% and 3% a day were probably nil. But greed got a hold of me, and I put a few thousand in this one, and a few thousand in that one, a few thousand in that one, and I compounded, that word that we'll never use it as it relates to Jubi Rev. And then all of a sudden, I would be in a deal, and that deal, all of a sudden, the website would go down, and you would never hear from the administrator again. You know, but it paid well. It paid well, all right? And over time, I lost about $30,000 in a period of 1 year with high-yield investment programs. Some of these are referred to as passive opportunities, what have you. I am not telling you not to participate in any of those. I am not telling you if you have some of those that you're dealing with. I'm not. Listen, you're big boys and big girls. What I do want you to know is what they really are in most cases. And here's your litmus test of any opportunity you're looking at. Your litmus test is this: are there true products and services that the consuming public would want even without a compensation plan? Are there true products and services that the consuming public would want even without a compensation plan? So there are a lot of companies that have launched with even revenue share type models, and yet when you look at their products and services, people that are not related to the income opportunity in many cases would not even use the product or service. Well, that is a show that the income opportunity is not built on a stable foundation. As it relates to investments, typically a true investment, you would have an account and you'd be able to get account statements. If you're in trading in the foreign exchange market, you'd be able to see your Forex statements or your mutual fund statements or your stock market statements. Again, am I telling you not to participate in any of the high yield investment programs out there, the ones that start with like PS as an example? I'm not telling you not to do that. You're your own man, own woman. I just want you to know what they are and what they are not. Those high yield investment programs, some of them will last for a year or two, maybe even 3. But ultimately, if they're not built on real investing or real products and services, then it probably has a short lifespan. Again, short lifespan could be 2 or 3 years. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I'm growing increasingly concerned that I'm seeing MLMers that are starting to promote these. I'm getting a lot of emails promoting different high-yield investment programs without any disclaimers. If you happen to promote one of these to someone else, just make sure they understand it's a high-yield investment program, all right? Nothing's guaranteed here. Yes, it's been paying, and I hope they continue to pay, but please don't put any more money in those things than what your resources actually allow. Don't go and borrow money. That's what bothers me. So the same thing even when it comes to the revenue sharing world. Again, what I want you because there's a lot of companies now that saw the revenue sharing world from the eyes of a company that had a penny auction. Some of us were a part of that particular company. Some of us made a ton of money, and unapologetically so. You worked your butt off, you made money, good for you, okay? By the way, I don't buy what the regulator said about that. The real Ponzi, by the way, and yes, I know I'm being recorded, the real Ponzi, by the way, is this thing in the U.S. called Social Security. That's the real Ponzi. That's the real Ponzi. That's taking someone who used to work, an investor, investing in. They only have a choice to invest. They have to have money taken out of their check. And now that old investor who is now no longer retired, is no longer working, is drawing off of revenue, essentially now really coming from the new investors putting money into the system. And oh, by the way, the beloved government has been really embezzling from the Social Security fund to pay other stuff. Now, if you and I do that, we all go to jail. Somehow the government doesn't, they're able to get away with it. So I've got no problem if you participate in any of these things. I just want you to know what they are. I want you to be careful. I definitely don't want you thinking that any of these high-yield investment programs are going to be long-term in nature and that, hey, I don't need to be in Jubi or ABC or DEF because I'll just plant my flag with these high-yield investment programs. Because one of the biggest ones out there, starting with PS, is already starting to have some major challenges. And so I just want you to be aware of that. Okay. Now, when it comes to Jubi, I want you to know that Jubi has a very, very, very powerful team of attorneys. And we're not just talking about MLM attorneys. Yes, we've got some of the top MLM attorneys. They're the ones that pretty much, they're on retainer, by the way. They're the ones that pretty much go through the compensation plan. They go back and forth with management, forth and back and back and forth and forth and back and forth as to requirements, what they feel needs to be in place from a regulatory standpoint so that this is a compliant revenue sharing model. So there's one part of the attorneys that are MLM attorneys. Then there is a general counsel who has not yet been introduced, and I won't introduce him. I'll let the president introduce when the president is ready to do so. A general counsel is essentially I've had a chance to spend a little time with him. He's an attack dog. Okay? a general counsel used to be, I don't know if he was the lead counsel or just one of a number of different attorneys for a company called Monavi. Any of you are familiar with Monavi, and some other bigger companies as well. The reason I mention this is because those of you that were a part of that, I call it the Beloved, the company that had a revenue sharing model wrapped around a penny auction. They ran into some regulatory headwinds, and unfortunately the owner, and I'm never going to put him under the bus, he changed a lot of lives, but unfortunately when he went in to meet with the regulators, he didn't have an attack dog as counsel, right? He basically had an attorney that just kind of keeled over. So this is important that we know that not only does the company have MLM attorneys, but the company also has a general counsel who's on staff, who is there. So if we ever have a regulatory issue, not only do we have the MLM, but we've got an attack dog. Believe me, when I say attack dog, this is what he told me. He says, when I come aboard here, I'm not a guard dog. I'm an attack dog. So I can't do that on a corporate webinar. That's important to know. We also need to know that there are also a team of attorneys that work with the company from a global perspective, which is why the company is registered not in the U.S., though it will do business in the U.S., okay? It's registered outside of the U.S. I can tell you right now that there is someone that management has sent down to survey to open up the first international office. And I'm not sure when that first international office will be set up, but that's what they're down. They're down all week setting up an international office. In time, there'll be multiple international offices. We do have our manufacturing here in the U.S. In time, as the company grows, there will probably be other distribution spots outside of the U.S. to facilitate or to make it easier to ship to certain countries. I can tell you, for instance, of this, please don't expect this next week, next month, next 6 months. But there's already been discussions with a group out of India, for instance, about when the time comes setting up distribution there. Why? Because from that group that the company has been in touch with in India, they can probably ship out to about 6 or 7 different countries, including Singapore and Nepal, obviously India, and I forget the other 3 or 4. Okay, so I want you to understand that Jubi is not here for some short run. That's why I led off with the hikes, led off with the some of the other revenue sharing opportunities out there. By the way, we want other revenue sharing companies to stand the test of time. We want other revenue sharing companies to win. We are not at odds. We are not enemies against any other revenue sharing company out there. I want to see them all win. I may not agree with their products or services. I may not agree there's one particular company. I certainly don't agree with their management. But even though I don't agree with their management, I still want that company to win because it's bigger than any one company. What we are looking to do here with Jubi, and hopefully there'll be a couple of other companies that will follow suit or will build alongside us, what we're looking to do here, ladies and gentlemen, is really establish the revenue sharing model as a long-term compliant model. Those of you that may remember in the early 90s, there was a model that came out called the binary compensation plan. And early on, many companies that employed a binary compensation model were under more intense regulatory scrutiny. There was a company called USANA, that proved that the binary model could be done compliantly, could be done profitably for both the field as well as the company. And now the binary model is a staple of the MLM network marketing industry. A lot of companies that now launch with binary models. Okay. Well, we believe the revenue sharing model is undergoing that same type of evolution, as it were. And listen, if you and I had been at USANA I don't know how old USANA is. But if we had been at USANA when they launched the binary, and we had the focus that we want to be with that company, that when they prove the binary model can be compliant, that we want to be there at the forefront in the pre-launch, we would not be on this webinar today, because we would be extremely wealthy. All right? We would not be on this webinar today. I'm convinced that somebody's going to get this revenue sharing model right. I believe that Jubi is going to be that flag bearer. And one of the things, just so you know what my role is with Jubi, I am not an owner, by the way. My role with Jubi, when I was contacted, actually, I was contacted late September, early October of last year by the group that now has, now that we have Jubi here. It wasn't called Jubi at that particular time, but I was contacted back then to do what you see me doing now for Jubi. Starting off until we build up more leaders and see who's really got a heart for the company and what have you. There'll be more voices that you'll start to hear on webinars, both in presentation and training and so on and so forth. But I was asked back then if I would be a voice for this company that wanted to launch, but they were looking for someone that cared about their people, someone that understood this model, someone who could articulate the model, who could not only present but could also train and could help to start the company so that it had the right type of culture. Now, I was promoting another business at that time, and so while I was flattered that they reached out to me, I wasn't looking to do anything at that particular time. So things happened. The company I was promoting, I've got some, don't quite agree with some of the management style. So at that point, later on, I said, hey, show me what you're looking at doing. Share with me your vision. When they shared with me their vision, and I said, oh, my gosh, this is it. There were certain things I had to have in place in order for me to plant my promotional flag here. And again, I'm a promoter just like you. But one of the things that we had to have in place, in no uncertain terms, this was not up for discussion or debate, because I was already the biggest, had the biggest team in another revenue sharing model. I was making, had the biggest amount of what we would call points, so on and so forth. So, and because we did so well in the previous company that ran into some regulatory headwinds, I didn't even need that money to take care of monthly expenses at the time. And so one of the things that we said we had to have is we had to have influence. I'm not an owner. I don't make ownership decisions, but I wanted to know, when I had to sign some non-disclosures, there's a lot of things I can't say, I wanted to know, when the daily revenue starts, was that real revenue that came in, or did you fudge the numbers? I couldn't tell you about any other company. I don't know. I don't know enough. But I wanted to know, are these real numbers? Because if you fudge the numbers, and then Mr. Regulator comes and he looks at your books and he sees that you fudged the numbers, you're going to be in trouble. And what I didn't want to have happen is to spend another 17 months like I had spent with another company, but some I's weren't dotted and some T's weren't crossed, and then even though we and a lot of our teammates made a lot of money, it came to an abrupt end. And unfortunately, there were a lot of people that came in on the tail end of that and never were able to get to the point where they were taking out enough commissions to be profitable. So I needed to have some influence. I needed to know. I wanted to know some numbers. You got to be able to share with me numbers. I know outside of that non-disclosure, I won't tell the numbers, but I got to know that this is real stuff. This is not some fake stuff. Because, see, here's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. We want to know how these hikes are able to last for a little while? Here's how. All right, so you put some money into the pot. They tie up your principal for 60 days, 170 days, 100 days. They pay a 1% or 2% daily return. Well, since your principal is tied up, ladies and gentlemen, they can take the money that you just put in and they could pay off somebody else who is more mature in the program, that's ready to take out money. So you can have one of these. A Ponzi can last for a while. Ask the U.S. government. It's a Ponzi. Ask Madoff. It was a Ponzi. I wanted to know these are real numbers. Now, I can't go over the numbers, but I can tell you this. If we were live right now with revenue sharing, based on every day that the company has been live to for folks to load funds, and let's assume that when people loaded funds, they were able to immediately make a purchase. Obviously, that's coming in the next few days. They were able to immediately give away Jubi Bucks to generate Jubi points. So it's real simple, ladies and gentlemen. The company takes its daily revenue, is going to pay some commissions on that daily revenue, okay? And then it's going to have a pot of money left. And if it divides that pot of money and says, I'm going to share up to 50% of that, and divides that by the number of outstanding Jubi points, then it should be real simple that each point gets a reward. And so now if you don't fudge on those numbers, if you're not faking those numbers, then when Mr. Regulator comes and wants to take a look at your books, well, you're not afraid for Mr. Regulator to come. I don't know why someone just waved the right flag, but our general counsel, if Mr. Regulator ever comes, we've got a tack dog there that can say, look, this is the revenue that came in from all sources. Yes, from promoters making purchases in time, customers making purchases, and this is what the company shared across the board. So every Jubi point earned. I needed to know, Zeke and Jerry Stewart, that the numbers weren't going to be fudged. And the only way I can know that is if you want me to do webinars and help lead until we get some other folks in place, then you got to give me some. You got to give me some of that. I got to know that. Now I had to sign all my disclosures and all that good stuff. Okay. I wanted to know. I wanted to be able to talk to manufacturing. I want to be able to find out a little bit about the products. Want to find out. So I wanted to have some samples. My wife, by the way, unfortunately, went to the doctor a few months ago. Doctor said, boy, your blood pressure's too high. Prescribed her some blood pressure medication. Gosh, she didn't want to take it. Okay, babe, you got to do it for a spell. You know, let's just drink more water. Let's take more good minerals, so on and so forth, and see if we can't release some of that hypertension there. All right, so she ran out of her blood pressure no, not hers. She ran out of the blood pressure medication. But we got samples of products in, and one of the products that we have that we don't talk a lot about is our cardio product. Well, you know, my blood pressure's in good order. I did try the cardio product. It's a powder, and you put it in some water, and it was actually pretty tasty. And I didn't think anything about it. And my wife started taking the cardio product every day. Now, she also did some other things. She started going to curves. She started working out about 2-3 times a week. She did increase her intake of good angstrom-sized minerals, magnesium, and calcium, magnesium, potassium, so on and so forth. And she was also taking the cardio product. Well, she went to the doctor about 3 weeks ago, and she had been on the cardio product for probably about 3 weeks at the time. And she said, oh, well, no, I hadn't been taking the medication because I ran out and I didn't go to do the refill. And okay, well, let me check your blood pressure. Checked her blood pressure, and he said, wait a minute, I thought you said you hadn't been taking the medication. She said, I haven't. He said, well, what have you been doing? He said, it's still higher than I'd like to see it, but boy, it sure is way down from where it was. Now, here's my disclaimer, okay? I'm not going to claim that the product raised Lazarus from the dead. And I did say that my wife also started working out a couple of days a week, 2-3 days a week at curves. And I did say that she also started drinking a little more water and what have you. But ladies and gentlemen, she added this, and when she went back to go see him, all of a sudden, blood pressure was lower. Okay? All right, can't make any health claims or what have you. That's why I gave you all of my disclaimers. Now, so I wanted to have influence. I needed to be able to know that what we were leading people into, because so many people were relying on our understanding of what was happening on the inside, I needed to know what was going on. I needed to have access, because I saw a company that their management team, not even the management team, had access to be able to send out a news report if something happened, if the daily rewards, somehow got messed up. Well, people need to know that. If there was an issue that came up, people need to know that. And so I said, hey, you got to give me some, I know you may have to limit some stuff, but you got to give me some access. I don't want to be a support person. I'm not a support person, but I need to know if all of management is on an airplane somewhere and an issue comes out that needs to be addressed and nobody can get to it and programming can't get to it, I need to know that at least I know how to make a post so that the field knows what's going on, because communication is very key. As a matter of fact, we were extremely instrumental in bringing aboard, or helping to bring aboard, the customer service manager, someone who understands this revenue sharing model, someone who is completely sold out to the model and certainly understands that customer service is one of the, yes, you need great compensation, yes, you need great products, but the company that we saw that ran into regulatory headwinds, they ran into those regulatory headwinds in large part because customer service was poor. And so people started complaining because support tickets weren't being addressed, and people were looking to make purchases, and they were sending in cashier's checks, and their accounts weren't being credited with their purchase for weeks at a time. And so people started picking up the phone and calling Mr. Regulator. A lot of that could have been avoided with great customer service. So we've already seen programming. I want to know if we've got an issue with programming, that I can give programming a call. So there are often times that programming is programming and working at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I text them or they text me, hey, are you up? Can I talk to you? That's the role we play, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a promoter like you, but I understand that if we have a revenue sharing model that stands the test of time, that meets the regulatory test, that passes the regulatory test, it can change the financial landscape of all of our families. Ladies and gentlemen, when I tell you Lynn's story, how this person had not been making money in 8 years, and in, I guess it was about 8 to 9 months, might have been a little bit less than that, they were making enough to make a car payment. 8 to 9 months is probably a little bit longer than it was. And somewhere between, let's say, yeah, that's probably not right. This is probably more like 6 to 8 months. And somewhere between 10 to 12 months, they were making enough to make a house note. And Lynn only referred one person. And somewhere about month 14 to maybe month 15, they were generating $1,000 a week. On the path that Lynn was on, if you had drawn that out another 12 months, Lynn could have very well been at $2,500, $3,000 a week or so. Lynn could have been making $10,000 to $14,000 to $15,000 a month. So do you see why I am so passionate about this model? All Lynn needed was a company that went the extra mile to dot some I's, cross the T's, have an attack dog that wasn't going to lay down when Mr. Regulator came, had attorneys that helped build the company from a global perspective so that it didn't just have all of its banking in the U.S., because this is the most highly regulated and a broke country at that, that had banking legally outside the U.S., that had different parts of its company. Let's say, for instance, all right, let's say, for instance, that Europe, let's say that England, Great Britain really takes off. Well, in time, there could be a Jubi England, or Susanna, a Jubi France or a Jubi Australia. Why? Because if a separate Jubi is set up, maybe with its own management, its own banking, what have you, it would still look like the same. You've seen MLM companies. So you go to the company, you go to the website, and you can click on the U.S. flag, or you could click on Canada, or you could click on Japan, because essentially what they have is they have independent parts of their company. They all function alike, but maybe in one area of the world, the compensation has to be tweaked just a little bit for that particular country. Maybe in another. See, just think about. And I happen to know that that company, that consultants told that company, you need to do it like that. It didn't get done. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. I'm just telling you how I know Jubi is already set up or is setting up as they grow. I want you to walk away from tonight's webinar saying, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I've been looking for. This is what I've been looking for. Okay. Now, let's make sure that we are prepared for where we are right now. All right, so we're through the pre-registration stage. We're at the pre-launch stage. Now, we've been here now for right at a week and a half. Okay? We know that we're going to be in pre-launch for the next few short weeks. How do we know this? Well, we know that you can still load your account March 15th, and there's been a little extension of another 7 days. March 22nd, I believe that is, okay? I would not wait till March 22nd. If that is the final date, by which people can load their accounts to make their purchases to participate in the Founders Promotion, then what I anticipate will happen is there may be a day or two where the sites are still up, but they cut off the upgrade function where people can't upgrade. And what they would then do is they would run commissions based on the purchases that are made between when pre-launch started and when the Founders Promotion ends. Okay, right now, the Founders Promotion is set to end on the 22nd, I believe it is. All right? It was originally scheduled to end on the 15th. There were some folks that were looking to load funds with the Jubi account, and unfortunately, the Jubi account hasn't gone as smoothly from a loading standpoint as what we would have liked. It is still a phenomenal payout solution. The pay-in solution hasn't gone for some people it's gone smoothly, but we know we've had some challenges with some folks, particularly some that are not in the U.S., that we've had some challenges with. So for that reason, the company thought it was fair that we roll that out at least another week. So now let's say if the 22nd is the hard line in the sand, okay? No more Founders Promotion thereafter, as an example. I'm not saying that's the case, but let's use that as an example. Then what would likely happen is there would be a period where the system does not allow upgrades. It may be for a day or two, and then they would run commissions. Okay, that would be the first commission run. So if you have referred others or you've developed a team and your team purchased inventory, then they will run commissions and you would see commissions showing up in your eCash. And then you'd have the opportunity to withdraw some of the eCash. I would not suggest you withdraw all, but do what you have to do for your family. Or you'd be able to take eCash and buy more inventory, give inventory away so that you can generate more Jubi points. Okay? Now, if the 22nd is the date, I don't know how long it would be before they run commissions, check commissions, make sure all that's ready, pay commissions, and so on and so forth. So we know that we're still in pre-launch at least to this date. We know. I would imagine that even if that date is a set-in-stone date, I would imagine if commissions were paid out, I would imagine there may still be another week or two or what have you before we go into soft launch. Now, soft launch is when our daily revenues are going to start. I know we all want this right now. I want it right now. What I'm more concerned about is that the company is built for the long haul and not for the short haul. So I know there are some of you that, because the daily revenue is not there just yet, you are doing other things. You have to do other things. And again, I'm never going to rain on your entrepreneurial parade. When this happens, okay, which I expected, again, a few short weeks, then the ball game changes forever. Because right now, I'm going to tell you, right now, I'm amazed at the revenues the company is seeing, and we've not started the daily revenues yet. Now, we've seen this before, and I'll tell you what we've seen before in the pre-registration, pre-launch stage. When the daily revenue starts, because right now we're all on faith, right? And that's why the company is willing to give us the pre-launch special of 15% match. You make a purchase of 1,000 Jubi bucks, normally you will earn 1,000 Jubi points once you've given away your inventory. The company says, hey, we know you're operating on faith. Now, we're trying to show you that we're not like so many other companies out there. We're giving you access to the back office. You come, well, we're doing at least five webinars a week. You come on to the live presentation webinars. You come on to the corporate update webinars. We're posting information in the back office. We're posting training in the back office. You get a chance to come out and meet the president. So I want you to see what the company is doing. What the company is doing to earn your trust and earn your respect. Well, what would happen is your $1,000 purchase, once you give that away, would have 1,150 Jubi points, 15% match. The company is also saying, if you refer others that make their founders purchase, you're going to get your normal commissioning, but you're also going to earn an additional 10% Jubi point match. So essentially what the company is saying is, we're going to give to the field an additional 25% between the 15% match and the 10% here. We're going to give a 25% premium because these folks acted with faith. They believed in us. Yes, we're working hard to earn your respect, earn your trust, earn your promotional interest, okay? Now, let's make sure we get this pre-launch phase, right? I was with a company that, look, I've been with two revenue sharing companies. The first one was built around a penny auction model. This is the one we were with for 17 months, and then they had some regulatory headwinds. And they did not have an attack dog there, being there for the interest of the company and thereby the reps, okay? All right, I was not there, headwinds. I was not there when that company started some type of pre-launch. I came aboard 2 months after they had launched to the public. So I never had a chance to be a part of any founders promotion. I don't even know if they had any type of founders promotion, okay? In 17 months, our team grew to over 400,000, and we had just thousands and thousands of folks making money every single day, okay? When that company had some regulatory headwinds, we planted our flag with the company that primarily dealt in travel. They also had an auction, and they also had a mall, their version of a mall with their own with some products that they had. That company had a pre-launch. They did the same thing. They did a pre-registration. During the pre-registration phase, there was this website. It was a really cheesy website. You registered for free, but you got no immediate access to a back office, okay? then the company went to a pre-launch stage. And the pre-registration stage was several weeks. You know, it was a few weeks, 3-4 weeks, okay? The pre-launch stage was another stage where then people could load funds and they could make purchases. So they were able to load funds and make purchases. Now, this company also did a promotion, and there were some folks who said, well, when you get to the daily revenue, come see it, come tell me. Then I'll promote. Then I'll start building a team. Then I'll start telling everyone to start upgrading. And that's fine. What we did is we told our folks, hey, let's get upgraded. Let's build. Let's build, upgrade, 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 upgrade. When the company did what Jubi will do very soon, and they, for a couple of days, nobody was able to upgrade, so they were doing all the figures. People had made their purchases. When they did their first pay run, we had folks that made $1,000. We had folks that made $5,000. We had folks that made $10,000. I'm talking about from the commissions, not the daily revenue. The commissions, because they built a team and people were upgrading. We had people that made $20,000. We had people that made $30,000. We had people that made $40,000 because of the work they were doing. So I want you to understand that even though the revenue sharing has not started today, it will not start for a few short weeks. Do not think that the time and the effort and the energy that you're putting into building your Jubi following right now is a moot point. No, it's not. Because what happened for those of our teammates that caught it in the pre-registration phase and the pre-launch phase is they positioned themselves so that when commissions were paid, there were some nice commissions. And so we saw some folks that made $20,000 that said, hey, I need some of that money. You know, let me request $5,000. And they did. And then maybe they kept the $15,000, bought some more inventory, gave that away to generate more points. And so by the time the daily revenue hit, we had people that had 10,000 points, 20,000 points, 40,000 points, 50,000 points. Now, I want you to see this, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that particular company, their daily revenue is not as strong as I like to see it now. But when they first started, and I'm going to tell you, I think that I'm going to tell you why I believe we're going to have very, very strong revenues. Okay. At 50,000 points, the example that I always use is I use an example of the company paying 0.0125 as a reward per point. We're never going to use the terminology percentages. We're not going to say the company paid 1.25%. That's going to be problematic in the U.S. All right, so let's make sure that if you're saying percentages, you stop saying it. If you're saying compounding, you stop saying it. You want to stay away from banking and investment terminology. Anything that has a banking or investment terminology, stay away from it because that could become problematic, okay? This is why on a corporate webinar, you've never even heard us come close to saying percent. We refer to it as a reward per point. A reward per point, okay? So I can tell you we had folks at 50,000 points when that company went with its daily revenue. We had folks already just from the daily revenue earning $500-600 a day, not to mention their override commissions, okay? I can tell you that because we focused on building when other folks who didn't have the same vision said, hey, you let me know when the daily revenue starts, then I'll build. Well, by that time, what happened was they weren't building. They were waiting for the daily revenue to start, all right? And in the meantime, people that they would have shared their referral link with, they didn't share it with, and somebody else shared their referral link, and so they wound up having people that they should have been recruiting not joining their business, but joining someone else's business. Meanwhile, what we did, what Tyron is doing, what Sean is doing, what Zeke and Jerry are doing, what Queen is doing, what Dave is doing, what those of us who have the vision, what Luna is doing, is we were saying, no. Yes, I want the daily revenue to start today, but I don't mind if it takes a few extra weeks to make sure that everything is done right. I don't mind that, because right now this allows me to get more and more and more people in, get them upgraded, and now we're going to make these big fat commissions, and now you can take some of those big fat commissions and buy more inventory so that you could start off. I believe there'll be folks with Jubi that will have 100,000 Jubi points by the time we start our daily revenue, which is still in just a very few, when I say very few short weeks. Okay? This is where I want to see some folks at 100,000. I want to see some folks at 50,000. I want to see some folks at 80 and 90,000. Okay. Now, in preparation for loading, let's make sure that we understand that we need to be factoring in two things. Number one, you need to factor in your monthly subscription. There's a $15 a month. That gets you the Jade rank. This means your Jubi points earned for 80 days. Bear with me. Give me just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Just a moment, please. Okay, I'm back. Okay, $15 a month. Now, with each of your subscriptions, you're going to get a corresponding number of personal use Jubi bucks. Now, these personal use Jubi bucks you cannot give away to generate Jubi points, okay? These personal use Jubi bucks, when you use them, they do not generate new points for you. These personal use Jubi bucks are designed for you to use those Jubi bucks in our system. One of the challenges that that company that had a penny auction that ran into some regulatory headwinds that should have had our general counsel, one of the challenges they had is that when Mr. Regulator came in, they looked at all the bids that that company had sold over that 18-month period that that company had been in business. And they said such a minute percentage of the bids were ever used. As promoters, reps with that company, our monthly subscription got us a certain amount of bids each month. The problem is those bids we would simply give away and generate more points, and then people weren't using the bids. And so when Mr. Regulator came, Mr. Regulator said, nobody's using the product. Not even your reps are using the product. This is not legit. And thereby he said it was an investment, it was a Ponzi, so on and so forth. Again, I still disagree, but they didn't have an attack dog like we have here with Jubi. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, what are you going to do with these personal use Jubi bucks? You're going to use them. You're going to go into the Jubi Max portal, and you're going to use them. And there'll be a dollar for dollar discount, because essentially what you've done is you've already applied $15 towards buying a product or 2 or 3 or 17 in the mall, in the Jubi portal. If you have $50 a month, it's going to get you your Ruby rank, 85 days. Obviously, you're going to get 50 personal use Jubi bucks. So now, if you have $50 a month, then there's going to be plenty of products that you can buy for your $50, and at least have, you know, the cardio product. That's not going to cost $50, so that's going to be a product that we'll get. Maybe it's weight loss, maybe some of the skincare, so on and so forth. $100 a month. Emerald, 95 days. Huge difference between 85 and 95. You get 100 personal use bucks. Let's call them PUJs. Personal use Jubi bucks. Okay. By the way, very important for the Jubi Suite. With the Jubi Suite, we want everyone to eventually qualify for all 8 levels of pay. That's going to take some time for some folks. Some of you are going to get there very quickly. But when the daily revenue starts, okay, Let me show you how powerful this is going to be when the daily revenue starts. I'm going to put the $200 a month here. Diamond, 105 days. Okay. Let me tell you how important this is. Okay. So, let's say when I was with the company that had the penny auction model, one of my personal enrollees was a guy who had not had major success in the industry before. His name is Brian. For the first time, he started seeing successes, and he really got passionate about that model. And he started to grow a referral network. And ultimately, he started making a lot of commissions, and he would take a lot of his commissions, and he would buy more inventory, give it away, and generate more points. Ultimately, he got up to 1.4 million points. Okay? True story. Now, I'm going to downplay what his earnings were, because it was more than what I'm going to show. If he averaged in daily revenue 0.0125, then an average night could have been, at this point, could have been about $17,500. These are real numbers. Actually, these numbers are understated because he was making more than this a night. Okay? Now, he got to the point where he was generating about another $2,500 a day in commissions. So he was typically generating $20,000 or more a night. Again, I'm understating the numbers. Okay? Now, because he was a personal enrollee of mine, what he did, and this is a strategy we're going to teach you, is we're going to teach you a strategy that when your points get to a certain level and you're now looking for consistent cash, consistent commission, what ratios we have seen that works over time. And that ratio is a 20-80 ratio, where you put 20% in your pocket, 80% you allow to purchase more inventory, give it away to generate more points. Okay? And so he followed suit. He would put 20% of this revenue in his pocket. $20,000, he would put $4,000 for the night in his pocket, or at least send that to his commission account. He would use 80% to repurchase more inventory, and this is what I would get a commission on. I would get a commission on a $16,000 transaction for the night. Now, I would earn 10% because he was personally enrolled. So I would make $1,600. Now, of course, it took some time to get up to that. But when it got up to that, ladies, $1,600, one referral, you are one. You are one recruit away from an explosion. By the way, this same dude is here with us in Jubi. This same dude is here with us in Jubi. Now check this out. All right, now, what we did not have with that company is we did not have this unilevel structure with the Jubi Suite tool. Now, when Brian got started with me, he didn't jet out of the gate. So if I had run a promotion with my personally enrolled at that time, it's likely that Brian would not have won because he didn't jet immediately out of the gate. So what I would have done with the Jubi Suite is I would have placed Brian with someone who won one of my contests. And so let's say that now I'm not looking to see who's here, so I'm just throwing out a name. So don't email me and say, hey, can I have Brian? It depends on if you win a contest or not. We'll see. By the way, Brian, I think, is going to win one of our contests. All right, based on his numbers. All right, so here we go. So let's say that I place Brian with Susie Average. There we go. In our system, if I placed if I placed Brian on Susie Average's first level, Susie would need to be at least an emerald to get the commissions for it. Now, if you place someone and someone is not yet an emerald, they just don't get the commissions today. Once they get to emerald and diamond and the rest of these ranks, they won't be retroactive, but going forward they'll get the commissions. So I want you to see what would have happened if I had placed Brian on Susie Average's first level. By the time that Brian was generating this type of revenue and he was repurchasing at a $16,000 a night clip, that would have meant that for Susie Average, she would have gotten a 0.5% override. That means that Susie's override for the night would have been $80, or in our case, 80 Jubi bucks. Now, Susie did not refer Brian. Susie had nothing to do with Brian. It did not take anything away from my 10% override. But it empowered Susie. And if Susie averaged that a day for 30 days out of the month, Susie very well could have generated an extra $2,400 in overrides, and that is what that company that had over 700,000 affiliates, paid affiliates across the globe, some 2 million affiliates in their system, that many of you call the beloved, because it was a phenomenal run with that company. It was cut short because they were short-sighted in certain areas, and I'm telling you that Jubi has gone to their attorneys. Jubi has consulted with multiple of consultants that they consulted with to say, hey, what should we be doing? Now that you know what happened with them, was there something that maybe you shared with them that they didn't do? Or now that you know what the regulators were looking at, is there something that we should be doing that maybe you didn't tell them to do? And ladies and gentlemen, they are listening and implementing. Listening and implementing. What if I placed Brian on, what if I was running a contest and Susie Average won the contest, but Susie has a guy on her team named Joe Average, and I actually placed Brian to Joe Average? I still keep my enrollment bonuses. I still keep my enrollment percentages. That's where the 3 generations come in. Now, look at what would have happened. Joe Average could have been making $80 a night, potentially. $2,400 a month. And Sue Average. Now, this was over time. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually understating these numbers. I'm understating. I am understating these numbers. Are you seeing the power? So listen. No, the daily revenue sharing hasn't started. We're still a few short weeks away. Don't miss this time. Don't miss this time. This is the time to really build it and look at this like real estate. It's choice real estate, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we've got tens of thousands of folks in Jubi Rev right now. Yes, people know about Jubi Rev, but there's still so many people that are not engaged yet, so many people that have not joined yet. This is the power, ladies and gentlemen. Could you imagine? Now, maybe it's not one person that you place. Maybe it's not one Brian dude. But maybe it's the combination effect of a few folks. I can tell you right now, I've got a guy on our team I personally enrolled. This dude has personally enrolled 2 folks. He's got a team of about 600. And his team sticks very close to him. He's not big on personal enrollments. He's really big on working with his team. So I already know that his folks, well, maybe not all 600, obviously, but they're going to be upgrading. Well, guess what? This guy, he's not going to win my personal enrollment contest. I've got a contest with my personally enrolled. He's not going to win that contest. So you know what? He's going to get placed. He The 2 that he personally enrolled and the entire team of 600 are going to get placed. That's the power, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this is why as I start the round third, I'm way past my time. Way past my time, okay? So I may not have a lot of time for Q&As. So come on Thursday. We'll be right back at this webinar link, okay? This is what I want us to get. That unilevel where you pick up those extra 0.5%, it starts at the emerald rank. So for those of you who said, I'm going to get started, but I'm not going to get started at emerald, I don't want you to hurt your family. Don't want you to hurt your family. If you can find a way to do $100 a month, at least that does a couple of things for you. That does get your points earning for 95 days. And it qualifies you so that if you refer someone or someone is placed in your unilevel, that you can earn on at least the first 2 levels. If you're diamond, you earn on the first 3 levels, $200 a month. If you go in your back office, you'll find this under the corporate overview. I'll probably get timed out here. You click on corporate overview, there is a compensation PDF. That's what I'm reading from right here. Okay? Now, we're going to use the placement feature as a part of the culture of our team. Now, I'm not like my buddy Tyron. Tyron's personally enrolled a couple, 300 folks. My buddy Sean is enrolled 500 personals. My buddy Coach is getting close to 1,200. My buddy Frank, I think, just went over 1,300 today. I'm not a personal enrollment machine like that. I knew I would probably personally enroll 100 or so, 100, 125, 150, because I build from a macro level. And so while I want to have a certain number of personal enrollees, I spend a lot of time working on things to help build the overall team. And so do those other folks. I'm certainly not suggesting they don't either. As a matter of fact, Tyron told me when he came aboard, he said, I'll come out the gate, I'll personally enroll a couple hundred folks. He says, and then you won't see my personal numbers move that much because then I focus on building the team. And I said, okay, all right. And he got to 200 and some change and kind of stayed there for a little bit. And I wanted to check in with Tyron, make sure he was still engaged. And oh my gosh, when the generational view came on, I saw Tyron had thousands of personal enrollees, and a lot of his personal folks were now starting to hit the leadership boards. Okay, what we want to do is, in our next webinar, we're going to talk more about the Jubi Suite. And some of you have a very exclusive webinar. You know what I'm talking about, but we're going to also talk about that. But Thursday, for all of our following, we're going to talk more about the Jubi Suite. This is going to be a culture in our team. What we want to do is we want to empower more people to make more money. See, here is what will happen here, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Sure, I could keep Brian on my first level. But me placing Brian makes a lot more sense. Why? Because I would not have lost my 10% override. I still get my 10% override because I'm his personal enroller. But by placing Brian somewhere in my organization, I now empower someone else. In this example, maybe Susie Average. And in this case, maybe even Joe Average, to generate revenues they wouldn't have generated. Now, you tell me what's going to happen if Sue generates an extra $80 a night. Now, remember that as Sue generates that extra $80 in an override, she's paid those $80 in the form of Jubi Bucks. Okay? She can commission out 60% of the Jubi Bucks. So what that means is that 40% of her override, even if she commissions out the maximum, at least 40% of this $80 override has to go to more Jubi Bucks, of which you are going to override that. So by helping Susie make money that she may not have made. What it does is it causes her, she doesn't have a choice, even if she wants to commission out the most she can, it causes her to have more Jubi bucks going into her Jubi buck balance every night, which means if you personally enrolled Susie, or your enroller enrolled her, or their enroller enrolled her, because we pay 3 generations, it has to generate more commissions. The more you give, the more you get. My gosh, the more you give, the more you get, the more you give, the more you get, the more you give, the more you get. This compensation follows the immutable laws of the universe that say you give, you get, 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 you give, you get. You give samples, you get Jubi points. You give away Jubi bucks, you get Jubi points. You give a leg with someone who deserves it because they won your contest. What they get is they get paid, and because they get paid more money than what they would have gotten paid more money, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Your overrides increase. My gosh, what a compensation plan. I can wait a few short weeks for the daily revenue because I see it. My gosh. Oh, I couldn't do that on a corporate webinar. That's why I like to do these webinars. This is what I want you to get, lady. I want you to walk away with tonight's webinar. I won't have a chance, because we've got to log on to the corporate webinar for the company. I won't have a chance to get to a lot of your questions. I know you've got a lot of questions. What I'll do on Thursday, we'll be back here on Thursday. What I'll do on Thursday is I'll talk a little bit more about the Jubi Suite, and then I will open it up for at least 45 minutes of Q&A. The last thing I need to share with you real quickly is we've got a third-party source. I can't talk about this on a corporate webinar, but I can on ours. We've got a third-party source for customer registrations, and these will be real customers. When I say real customers, if you purchase customer registrations from this source, the customers that you're purchasing are going to be people that will be driven to your actual Jubi Max site. Jubi Max site, look for that over the coming days. Okay, I don't want to give any dates because I don't want to miss dates, but I can tell you that the product descriptions, the product pictures, ingredients, as we are speaking, that's being loaded right now onto the JubiMax site, and the JubiMax site will be going live in just a few short days. All right, I'd love, well, I don't want to give any dates, but a very, very few short dates. So when that goes live, not far thereafter, you're going to be able to purchase customer registrations. The customers are going to see your actual JubiMax site. In times past, those of us that have used third-party services to purchase registrations, what we've come to know is that a lot of those customer registrations never saw your site. So if you were giving them bids, they never saw your actual site. So they didn't even know they were getting bids. Or they didn't know they were getting something called LDs. All right, those of you who've been following us for a while, you know what that stands for. So in many cases, there was really no chance that that customer was going to convert into a paying customer. All right, that's going to be different with the source that we're using. I've used and I've worked very closely with this source. Some of you have as well. They are phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal people. You'll be able to get customer registrations. You'll be able to get ad posting services if you want to have ad posting. And you'll also even be able to purchase BizOp leads. But for our purposes, I think the customer registrations is going to be the most important, as well as those of you who want to use the ad posting services. This is where you need to go. You can register for free today. They're not ready for you to buy anything yet, but you can register free today. This is what I would strongly suggest that we use, and get out to your folks. FlyGuyMarketing.com. 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 You register for free. That way you're in their database, and just as soon as they're ready for you to purchase customers and customer registrations, you can. This is going to be a way to quickly give away Jubi bucks, have people take samples, so on and so forth. We'll also be talking about ways to have customers, people that you know. It's going to be much easier getting customers of people that you may know, especially those of you that are saying, hey, I'd be willing to do a little offline building also, because Some of you, because you get your you get your weekly subscription, you're going to get products, and you'll be able to say, hey, try this product. You know, hey, get your sample, so on and so forth. So customers are not going to be an issue. We should have plenty of those. Shouldn't have to worry about the customers. Fly Guy Marketing will help make sure that's the case. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to get to Q&A. We're going to be back on this webinar link on Thursday. I'll try to keep it to 30 minutes on my sharing part, 35 minutes, and then open it up for at least 45 minutes of Q&A to answer as many questions as we possibly can. Oh, one last thing. The Jubi Suite, we talked about it last night. I would have you not to use the Jubi Suite if you haven't already done so. Do not use it yet. Do not place anybody yet. Thursday evening, after the income opportunity webinar, the Jubi Suite is going to go permanent. Last night we said, hey, it's going to be temporary. We got some feedback, some very quality, constructive feedback from some leaders saying, well, I don't want to show that, and then it resets, and then someone makes a different move, and now Joe Average thought he was going to have this person, and then they don't have that person, and they get mad at me, so on and so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the Jubi Suite permanent as of Thursday night. So I personally have not used the Jubi Suite yet. I personally will not use the Jubi Suite before Thursday. And when you come to the webinar that we'll talk about on Thursday, I'll share with you some strategies that I will be using for the Jubi Suite for you to think about with the Jubi Suite. We love each and every one of you. We're going to jump over to the other webinar. That webinar will get started here in just a few moments. You can go over to JubiRev webinar.com. We'll see you there in the next few minutes. Love you guys. Let's change the world together, starting with yours. Remember, Jubi Rev, Jubi Max, not just a company, it's a movement. See you on the next webinar.